Hi all, it's Gert Marx here from SSW. We're back in Melbourne for NDC. With me I've got Yuli.
Hello.
How you going, Yuli?
Very good. Excited for my talk tomorrow.
Oh, awesome. What to talk about?
Guess.
AI.
Yeah, how'd you guess? It's amazing.
I know. I Googled it. No, I ChatGPT'd it.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, so tell me more about your talk.
Okay, so basically 2025, the year of the agent, or so we hear. So I wanted to dig into that. Why is it the year of the agent? What's different? What's an agent? Like at the beginning, it looked like any AI system that wasn't a chatbot was an agent, right? Like if it can turn on your air conditioning, that's an agent, right? Yeah. If it has any ability to interact with any tools, that's an agent. Yeah. That's not an agent, right? So I did a deep dive and I figured out there's leading companies who are marketing themselves as creating agents or agent platforms that aren't actually agents. So I go into a deep dive, I figure out what's the difference between like old-fashioned rules-based AI, then generative AI, then AI workflows, and then finally agents. And when would you build each one?
Okay, well, that sounds really interesting. Have you found that people's misunderstanding of the differences of that makes it harder for them to understand AI?
100%, yeah. So it doesn't necessarily matter unless you're getting technical. Because if people, like for instance, we build, at SSW, we build custom software for clients, and if they come to us and say, I want an agent, and we find out that actually they just want an AI workflow, happy days, no worries, we'll just build them an AI workflow. They don't care so long as it does what they want it to do. It's really more from a technical point of view when you're looking for like an agent framework or an agent platform, and you actually need an agent. By the way, I'll just quickly define it. An agent is something that can look at the tools that it has at its disposal and make its own workflow. So it makes its own plan. It perceives where it's up to in the process. It makes a short to medium term plan. It tries to action that. It uses the tools to impact whatever it thinks it can do. And then it kind of does another checking step to go, right, where am I up to? Am I on track? Yes, no. Yes, okay, continue the plan. No, replan. Right? So it's trying to get from A to B, but it itself figures out all the sub goals that it needs to do and the workflow that it needs to create to get there. And the real benefit of an agent compared to an AI workflow is, for an AI workflow, everything that the software can do, the devs have to have parsed out.
Basically tell it exactly what it is.
Yeah, so I want my agent, I want my AI to do X, Y, and Z. So we go, no worries, we'll build a workflow for X, a workflow for Y, and a workflow for Z, right? Whereas an agent is just something that can do anything that the tools that it has access to are capable of doing, right? In any combination that it can figure out it can do.
So in theory, it will have more power and it will basically teach itself of what the right path is. When you build the workflow, you have one point A to B, and you're telling it this is the path to take, but that's not necessarily the correct path or the best path, the optimal path to take. And that's a workflow, but the agent can
actually really interesting. So there's the concept called reinforcement learning, which is where an agent will take a pass at something and then work out how well it thought it did. It's like, okay, great, that worked really well. I'll keep that in my mind so the next time I do that same thing, I'm going to do that same path, right, as my first option, because that worked really well. Or, yeah, that worked well, but I think I could do better. Or that didn't work at all, I won't be doing that again, right? You can get self-improving AI workflows as well that can build on the knowledge base. So you can still, via RAG and stuff, you can still actually train AI workflows to do reinforcement learning as well, but agents really thrive on it because agents can get things really wrong.
Well, that's the other thing, isn't it? So when they get it wrong, can they teach themselves, or do they know that they're actually getting it wrong? And I think that's the part that's the reward I find is sort of missing in all of this, is how do we test that? How do we know that agent actually knows what it's talking about or is actually doing the right thing? We can look at the endpoint, and whether it's giving us what we were expecting. But with most agents, we don't really know what that endpoint, we know what it looks like. We just don't know whether this is the best way to do it. And we're giving all our confidence to the agent to tell us whether that is the best path to take.
There's something called a reward function, which for instance, let's say a coding agent, right? You can test if code compiles and passes an integration test or something, right? You can very easily say, yes, you wrote that code correctly, or no, that was terrible code. Right? So it has what's called a strong reward function, which allows it to do really good reinforcement learning, which is why we're getting so many really powerful coding agents being released now. We've got Devon, Copilot, GitHub Copilot, Cursor, a whole bunch, Manus to some extent as well. That's why there's so many of these happening now, is because that reinforcement function reward function is really strong, allowing for good reinforcement learning. But that's why in other spaces where You know how when LLMs first came out, the first people who thought they were at risk were the creatives?
Yeah.
But actually creatives, even though you can generate stuff that's creative, it's actually quite hard to make a reward function based on that.
Yeah.
Because what's good art? Right?
Yeah.
It's quite subjective, right?
Yeah, it's very subjective.
So that's what allowed it to succeed in the beginning, but it's actually what's slowing it down now from an agentic point of view, which is really interesting. So I mean, you know, we are a company of software developers at SSW. We're more nervous about the coding agents than we are about the, you know, marketing agents or all the other ones.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's really interesting, and yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to your talk. But one thing that always bothers me is how far do you go into this? Like, as coders, let's say we use NuGet packages, right? We don't really care how that NuGet package is put together. All we want to know is this going to give me the features that I need to write my code, right? And the same, it's predictable. And the same with AI. At which point do you draw the line and you just accept that things work, that you just accept the way that they work in the back end is okay? Because what I find, a lot of people dive very deep into the AI to get that confidence out of it, to say, oh, that's how you're doing it, so now I'm going to trust it more. Where do you draw that line and just accept what you've got is enough to help you to build whatever it is?
Really so we're used to very deterministic code,
Yeah.
right? Like, you know, X plus Y equals Z. Like, we know that that's the same every time. Right? As soon as you add temperature being the randomness that's put into a large language model, by definition to make it work. As soon as you add that in, you no longer have X plus Y equals Z, right? Like you know, you can't guarantee that. And to get that certainty back again, you have to do a lot of work at the other end. So the best use cases for this are the ones that are slightly creative, that don't have to have a completely strong reward function, which is paradoxical to what I said before. Different for reinforcement learning and for desired outcomes. But yeah, no, it's very interesting, and it means that an agent is not the best solution for everything, right? An agent that's going to come up with its own workflow every time works really well in a wide problem space and an undefined problem space. But if you have an extremely well-defined problem space, you're still better off to actually just map out
that workflow.
Like, I know that this workflow is going to work. Just use that every time.
Yeah.
So there's also hybrid systems where you build workflows for the ones that you know it's going to have to do a bunch of times. But then you also give it agentic capabilities for anything which doesn't fit those workflows.
Yeah. And I guess workflows also work well for training your own models, right? If you have your own data, you know exactly what data you're giving it, you know exactly what you want to get out of that data, and that will be a workflow. You don't need an agent to go through that data and tell you what the data is about, because you know what it is that you want. But yeah, there's so much going on, and I think there's just more coming our way in the next few months.
So what I try to do in my talk, because this is such a fuzzy line, what's an agent, what's not, I give a whole bunch of real world examples of AI enabled workflows as well as agents, and highlight the differences.
Yeah, awesome. Well, please, if you're in the area, come down and watch Ulysses talk. We'll see you at NDC Melbourne. Thank you very much.